Whatever your view is on life, who you are, where you are from, and why you are here, one thing is certain. Your physical body and non-physical mind or consciousness is on a journey of discovery. We must never stop investigating, never stop experimenting, never stop questioning. No fear, only love. No anger, only compassion and forgiveness.
'Cause this is just the way it's meant to be. This is just the way it's meant to be. This is just the way it's meant to be. This is just the way it's meant to be.
This is not a drill. It's happening, and it's happening now.
We're in the midst of the greatest redistribution of power since the Industrial Revolution.
Ruling class are murdering you. Not slowly, they've got their hands around your throats and you're just passing out. They are destroying the earth and everything that lives on it to make a few quid.
That somehow this is America and then just across the field is Canada, and that you have to have all kinds of papers and pictures and stamps and passports and, you know, I mean, when you think about it, it's insane. It's insane carving up the world into little patches like that.
I've never paid attention to mainstream press and media before, so I've never been aware of people being attacked, you know, and crucified on that level. And I can't help but feel that we've been scapegoated in a way, you know.
Why don't we just stop them? Why don't we get tough, take to the streets in millions, say enough is enough?
It's an expression of my view, which is that we, human beings, all have a responsibility to stand up in solidarity with one another against authority that is errant, wherever and however and whatever it is and wherever we see it. Errant authority. You know, this is not 60s bull. This is stuff that has to do with the reality of the way the world turns now and the way it works. And we by and large have a very blinkered view of it.
You think that still has traction?
Absolutely.
Is it my imagination? Is it too much to suggest that their leaders over there and our leaders in the West are driven not by trying to achieve peace in our time, but by something else, by something altogether less sublime? Call me a cynic, but it sometimes seems to me that some of them are more attached to power than to peace.
You are not still in a democracy. You can buy political power now. That is not democratic. At some point in everybody's life, they have to decide whether or not they believe in the 1948 Universal Declaration of Human Rights in Paris. If you do, either you believe in it or you don't. You can't have it both ways. And so if you do believe it, then you have to stand up for people's human rights all over the world, irrespective of their ethnicity or their religion or their nationality. One would need to persuade the good people of the United States of America that they somehow need to wrest the power that resides with the very, very wealthy back to the rest of you, or the rest of them, in order that you could, for instance, have a mainstream media that reports news from around the world rather than providing 24-hour entertainment in order to sell soap powder, which is, with all due respect, and there's not a great deal of respect you can give to even some of the considered august bodies, some of the broadsheets. You know, the New York Times is now just a mouthpiece for the government, so is the Wall Street Journal. But the people would have to wake, first of all, they would have to wake up, the people, you Americans, would have to wake up to the fact that these newspapers and the rest of the media are not giving you the news.
So what, if anything, to do? Well, understand that every day, in many small but central ways, we get to choose.
This is something that I actually put in my folder when I came out here today. You have no idea what it is. Nobody does, because it arrived on the internet to me this morning. It's a request for the rights to use my song, Another Brick in the Wall 2, in the making of a film to promote Instagram. I only mention that because this is an insidious, it's the insidious movement of them to take over absolutely everything, you know. So those of us who do have any power, and I do have a little bit, in terms of the control of the publishing of my songs, I do anyway. So I will not be a party to this bullshit.
Them. Enough. They've had their time. A new day dawns, and we will not be swaddled in their grime.
Breaking details on that whistleblower who leaked top-secret documents about the government surveillance of Americans.
But the person responsible for one of the greatest national security leaks in recent American history insisted that his identity be made public after he fled the country for Hong Kong. Snowden has been in Russia now for 3 full days.
President Putin defying the U.S., saying the Russians will not turn him over.
He damaged the security of the country.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot.
But this is a little bit of a misunderstanding about why I came forward. I didn't come forward to tell people how to live or what to do. The problem of 2013 was not one specifically of surveillance, but one of democracy. It was the fact that our laws had changed. The operation of our governments had changed around the world, across borders, and it happened without our knowledge, without our consent. Now, the basic principle of democracy in an open Western liberal society, one would hope at least, is that the government governs because they have a mandate that's based on the consent of the governed. If we don't know what's going on, we can't give our consent.
I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks.
We're in the midst of the greatest redistribution of power since the Industrial Revolution. And this is happening because technology has provided a new capability that reaches everyone in every place. It has no regard for borders. Now, this technology allows these institutions to monitor and record the private activities of people on a scale that's broad enough that we can say it's close to all-powerful. And it's through the use of new platforms and algorithms that are built on and around these capabilities that they're able to shift our behavior. In some cases, they're able to predict our decisions and also nudge them to different outcomes. And they do this by exploiting the human need for belonging. But how many of you who have a Facebook account actually read the terms of service? Right? Like it's not anything to be ashamed of. Everything has hundreds and hundreds of pages of legal jargon that we're not qualified to read and assess, and yet they're considered to be binding upon us. And it is through this sort of unholy connection of technology and sort of an unusual interpretation of contract law that these institutions have been able to transform this greatest virtue of humanity, which is this desire to interact and to connect and to cooperate and to share, to transform all of that into a weakness. And now these institutions, which are both commercial and governmental, have built upon that, and they have structuralized it and entrenched it to where it has become now the most effective means of social control in the history of our species.
Since many authorities feel that the Sunset Strip to be, or has been, one of the prime innovators of the present reaction of youth against the establishment, what is your attitude toward the Strip and its people?
It's not actually a thing against the establishment. It's not that at all, because a lot of those kids down there I found out are part of the establishment, It's nothing but, a lot of them are lazy down there. A lot of them are groovy, you know, but the groovy ones don't preach as hard as the lazy ones do. And so therefore it's a big mess. But cleaning it up, running kids away from that is not going to help anything, you know. Because police, the more you send police anywhere, the more trouble you're going to have. Because some people haven't reached the point of thinking as a word. Retaliation is not the right, you know, move, especially in aggression. People don't realize that music has so much to do with what's happening today, you know. And you're not going to stop the music. You might as well just let it stay there and depend on the music to straighten it out. And then give the music some kind of respect as to where it can do these things, you know. If they want to know the truth about it, the best thing to do is listen to the music. Even some color people look at my music and say, is that white or black? I said, what do you want to, you know, what are you trying to dissect that for? Try to go by the feeling of it. All those are things that we have to wipe away from the face of the earth before it can live in harmony. Do you realize they have a laser beam that you can put in satellites that'll circle the world and it'll stop from any rockets in the whole world being let off and anywhere in the world? But no, they don't want to hear about these new ideas. They want to hear about the old ones, like spend up all this money and get a big missile system, you know.
They also say that of all the money, if they took the money that they spent on defense for 2 years and put it in medicine, medical research, that they could cure every possible known disease to man.
Well, how come they don't do those things? They choke their own selves. They get so greedy with money that they don't want to give it up, you know.
Yeah.
That's silly. That's just nothing but a drug just like anything else. Matter of fact, it's one of the worst drugs. They're so block-minded. That's all part of the evolution. See, evolution of the man is changing the brain. So quite naturally you're going to have hang-ups here and there of thought, you know. But still, the whole past is going towards a higher way of thinking, you know, towards a clearer way of thinking. But there are still some hardheads, just like you're talking about, that think this way because they don't give their cells a chance to develop in the brain or let the souls develop or the emotions, you know.
Just imagine if there were no countries. Not no places where we each had our little spot, but imagine there was a time, you know, when you didn't have to have a passport to go from country to country. What kind of world did we create? Really, it used to be you could go around, you know. What is this game that you can't get, that somehow this is America and then just across the field is Canada, and that you have to have all kinds of papers and pictures and stamps and passports and, you know, I mean, when you think about it, it's insane. It's insane carving up the world into little patches like that. The concept of imagining no countries, imagining no religion, not imagining no God. Although you're entitled to do that too. Imagining no denominations. Imagining that we revere Jesus Christ, Mohammed, Krishna, Milarepa equally. We don't have to worship either one, that we don't have to, but imagine there's no Catholic Protestant, no Jew Christian, that we allow it all, freedom of religion for real, I mean, for real. Just imagine it. Would it be so terrible? We have to project a positive future. I mean, I think that's what Christ and Mohammed and those people were saying in their way, in their time, for their society. I would say the people have the power. I don't mean power of the gun. They have the power to make and create the society they want. We all created this together. It wasn't a few kings or a few generals. We might have invested the power in a Napoleon, or the Germans might have been hypnotized by Hitler. Does that make the Germans different from the rest of the human race? No way. You know, it could have happened anywhere. It just happened there at that moment in time. Okay? And also, the world, we do breathe in and we breathe out. So you go to the left, you go to the right. It's in the long term, it's meaningless. Even since I was conscious of politics, it was the right in the 50s, the left in the 60s, and sort of nothing in the 70s, and it's going to the right. If everybody's going to panic and just react to an illusionary right wing that's going to kill everybody, well, that's what you're going to get. I believe that it doesn't have to be like that just because the guy has a right wing or supposedly has a different political view than other people. Now, personally, I've never voted in my life. How do you like that? And there's a Beatles book that was handed out in the 1964 tour, a book of photographs, and on the top of it, it shows this young John Lennon in his usual big mouth way saying, no phony politician's ever going to get through to me. Well, I take the phony politician out because I don't think all politicians are phony. I won't categorize even politicians now because I've learned a lot since I was 23. But I don't think politics is the only answer. I think this idea that we elect these leaders and then expect them to do miracles for us. Now, Kennedy is a big dream for everybody because he didn't live to fulfill or let us down. And it's not to negate what Kennedy was and what he means to people. But the reality is, had he lived, how do you know how well he would have done at the time, right? Or how the war would have gone and how everything would have gone. So investing leaders with supernatural powers, whether they be pop stars, politicians, or movie stars, or football heroes, it don't work. It just doesn't work. Because we put them up on the pedestal and immediately we want to knock them off. It is too much invested in one man, one group. And I don't believe in that. I don't believe the media are separate from society. I don't believe politicians are separate from society. I don't believe pop stars, football players, and movie stars are separate from society. It's just that we've developed this thing for whatever reason that we think we're broken up into these fragmented pieces, countries, sexes, races. It's a joke. It's as Neanderthal as the political system.
What broke first? Was never mind or team spirit? When it started to break, whatever broke first?
I don't know, because we were on tour in Europe, and it didn't affect me until, probably 3 months after we'd already been famous in America.
Was there one moment when you suddenly walked into it or suddenly realized?
Yeah, when I got home, a friend of mine made a compilation of all the news stories about our band that was played on MTV and on the local news programs and stuff. It's frightening. It just scared me.
Well, and what about the media? Did you find it incredibly disheartening that you'd started this group and you were playing these songs, good songs, and you'd become incredibly successful, and then suddenly all this weird stuff started?
Oh yeah, it affected me to the point of wanting to break up the band all the time. I've never paid attention to mainstream press and media before, so I've never been aware of people being attacked, and crucified on that level. And I can't help but feel that we've been scapegoated in a way. I feel I have a lot of animosity towards journalists and press in general, but because it's happening to me, of course, I'm probably exaggerating it, but I still can't think of another example of any current band that has had more negative articles written about it. A lot of it's just simple sexism. Courtney is my wife, and people could not accept the fact that I'm in love, and that I could be happy, and because she's such a powerful person and such a threatening person, that every sexist within the industry just joined forces and decided to string us up. I'm not going to let a rock band or a handful of evil journalists to dictate my fucking life.
What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out or wants to have a musical career?
Just keep practicing and don't give up. Just never give up. Play as often as you can and be really dedicated and try to write good music, and don't worry about the material ethics that go with music. It doesn't matter what you look like or anything. It doesn't matter what your product looks like. It's what it sounds like.
You have written a line of poetry which reads, "The spectator is a dying animal." Now, isn't that a bit of a contradiction to what you've said previously?
No, it's concerned with that same split between the actor and the audience. To me, there's something incredibly sad about a bunch of human beings sitting down watching something take place. And just when you think about it, I love movies as much as anyone else, but the spectacle of millions and millions of people sitting in movie theaters and in front of television sets every night watching a second or third hand reproduction of reality going on when the real world is right there in their living room or right outside in the street or down the block somewhere. I think it's a tool to somnambulize or hypnotize people into a kind of waking sleep. But I think the major influence in the next decade or so is going to be the people who are able to assemble masses, huge masses of people into one spot, as we've witnessed in pop festivals in the last 2 or 3 years. I think will be the major influences on mass culture in the next decade. I think the rock music enthusiasts have created probably some of the most exciting music and theatrical events on the planet. I think they're fantastic.
Well, part of generation gap is the difference in what people like in terms of music. Now, this is something that distresses me a little bit. It seems that the young people like all the same kind of thing. Now, I want more out of the young people than just that.
Yeah, well, they're being programmed by their radios. They only play, the major radio stations, rock stations, only play 30 songs over and over and over, 24 hours a day. And it's been proven what you hear the most is what you like the most. So there's really no choice involved. Someone is programming it.
So we are the victims of media.
Uh-huh. What everyone should say is the medium is the message, and the message is me. I mean, that's the answer, is for everyone to, you're asking for an answer. The answer is for everyone to stand up and say, I'm me, and be fully aware of that fact and let everyone else know it.
Yeah.
That you are yourself, and express it.
Thank you for listening to the China Jedi podcast.
Set aside your filters of bias.
The truth is learned, never told. Do your own research.
May the smile be with you.